Çıkartmam kalmasıyla Hagopian. Let's start.
Okay.
Yes, let's start. Again, good day to your colleagues, your participants. As you know, our topic is technology trends in the hospitality industry and mainly how emerging technologies will transform hotel management in the post-COVID era. Today with us will be Hagop Panosian, who is marketing manager at Ginosi Hospitality Management Company, and me, Teresa Baltasaryan. We have initially shared information and biography of Hagop Panosian in our event. And one time also automation. He's author of the 2 books, Learn iOS Application Distribution and the Complete App Design Sketchbook for the iPhone. He's a technology marketer and currently working as a marketing manager with Ginosi Hospitality Management. And in a few words, also I wanted to introduce hosprof, why we have created hosprof and what is the purpose of this platform. We have created hosprof.com to unite and to create one platform where we can have centralize all the information and all the data we have in hospitality industry, mainly for Armenian and also for Armenian abroad. Our website will offer different functions as well as informatical. It will have informatical part, education and courses part. We have a job announcement part and interesting insights and articles, also industry researches. Website will be multilingual. It will offer Armenian and English, and we have a lot of data files and articles in Armenian, which will help to empower our industry. Now I will stop showing my desktop and will pass the speech to Hagop and one more time to say him thank you for confirming his participation and to contribute to this initiative. Also, I will mention the format, how we will do. We will have a presentation with the lecture of Mr. Hagop Panosian, and then at the end we will have Q&A part where you can, but during the webinar you can write down your questions and he will answer in the end of the webinar. So, dear Hagop, I pass you the screen and all the functions. Hope we will have interesting, I'm sure we will have interesting webinar and lesson. Hope we will not have any technological problems concerning the rain and the connections that maybe our attendees will face because of the rain and the internet connection. So I will stop my camera in order to strengthen the connection also for your side. You can share with it.
Okay, thank you very much, Teresa, for the invitation. And I'm very excited to be here today to talk about some very interesting subjects that have become very, very relevant because of COVID-19 and the situation that we are all experiencing today. I assume everybody can hear and see me. Am I correct?
Yes, for me,
okay.
If anyone is facing problem, you can write down in chat.
Yes, please type in the comments on the side. Just let me know if you have any issues. And I'll start by just sharing my presentation. A second. Okay, I assume that this is the screen that is showing now. Everybody can see this?
Yes, we see.
All right, thank you. So today's lecture is on technology trends in the hospitality industry and how COVID-19 has changed the positioning of technology with respect to hotel management as it has in many other industries. Now, before we begin, just some information about me. As Teresa already mentioned everything that's relevant about me, I just like to mention that I don't have a formal background in hospitality. My background is not in hospitality. I'm an architect by education, and about 10 years ago, I made a pivot and shifted to technology education and technology marketing. I'm also the author of Learn iOS Application Distribution. And these days I work with companies that are involved in augmented reality, AR, VR, mixed reality, hospitality tech, as in the case of Ginosi, and fintech as of lately. So it's a very interesting domain to be involved in, and because it's always about what's coming, what's the future, and how to make everything future-proof as COVID-19 is showing us. Can everybody see me, or is my screen? Just to make sure.
Yes, we can see your
Okay,
screen.
Teresa, everything is okay, right? Okay, thank
Yes,
you very much.
everything is okay.
All right. So before I begin on the subject, I'd also like to talk a little bit about Ginosi, because Ginosi is a technology innovator, an Armenia-based technology innovator, that, as we will see later, has a hotel management system that is proving to be extremely potent and capable in situations like COVID-19. We have managers here who manage hotels across the whole world, in the United States, Spain, Italy, Switzerland, and we are built from the ground up for remote management and for agility and resilience in situations like this. Now, we did not necessarily foresee this situation, but we foresaw the way that technology is headed and how efficiency and remote management and other, emerging technologies will have an impact. And we built a system around that from the ground up. And that has become very important these days. Now, a perfect example of this is the Hospitality Intelligence Platform, which is a cloud-based integrated hotel management platform for next generation hotel management. It merges every conceivable technology together into one system that can be managed remotely and provides extreme flexibility for hotels to adapt to extreme situations and non-extreme situations depending on their priorities. And I will talk a lot more about this a little later. So in this webinar, I will be making a few points, one of which is that COVID-19 is going to leave a permanent imprint on the world and the global economy. It's not going to be like previous outbreaks of pandemics and crises because of its scale and the fact that it brought everything to a complete stop suddenly, very suddenly. And that has had, as everybody knows, a huge effect, a huge impact on absolutely everything. And as a result, the hospitality industry, like many other industries, will have to adjust to a new reality that includes a lot more unpredictability. And for that, companies will have to become more resilient and agile and flexible, in order to adapt to this new level of unpredictability. And the next point, of course, is that the adoption of emerging technologies has been brought forward because of this new reality, which means that if it was, if people were going to thinking about introducing augmented reality and AR, VR, etc., and other technologies within a time frame of, let's say, 20 years, now the adoption of these technologies has been brought forward. Now they're thinking about how fast they can use these technologies to become resilient. And at the end of the presentation, I will also talk about Ginosi's forward-looking and innovative hospitality intelligence platform, which is, I am convinced, uniquely capable of offering hotels a sustainable long-term recovery. In all honesty, I do not currently know of any other system that can provide what Ginosi's system can provide, which is exciting for me to share with hospitality professionals. So let's quickly look at the impact of COVID-19. What's important about COVID-19 is that it did come out out of the blue. I mean, nobody was expecting this, but of course, it's not the first disease outbreak that has affected the world. It's just that the scale of COVID-19 is what has had such a tremendous impact on the world. And what it has taught us is that almost everything can stop overnight. And that is that is nearly inconceivable for businesses to, adapt to. I mean, what can you do to adapt to the fact that everything can stop overnight? And the second is that this is probably not the last time that businesses will have to stop overnight. It could be another disease outbreak. It could be any other, any kind of crisis, a military conflict, a terrorist incident. We have, such things are happening with increasing frequency. And something has to be done for businesses to avoid the situation that they fell into with COVID-19. Okay, so the conclusion out of all this is that the main insight is that the world after COVID-19 is not going to be the world before. This means that businesses will not go out and celebrate after the outbreak is over and the lockdown ends, and go out and celebrate and go back to doing things exactly the way that they were doing them before. A lot of changes will have to be made so that in the next crisis, different industries, including the hospitality industry, can survive much easier than they have this one. I mean, they will suffer much less than they have suffered this outbreak. Okay, so what we're talking about is a new reality for hospitality. It's not exclusive to hospitality, it's just that hospitality is the subject of today. And the fact that hospitality is one of the most, it turned out one of the most vulnerable industries. You know, the restaurant industry, the hotel industry, the transport industry, anything that involves heavy interaction with people, that relies on travelers, tourists, visitors, human activity. As soon as that human activity stopped, then everything just fell apart. And as the chart shows, this is a study of vulnerability to lockdowns conducted by The Economist and other sources. And it looked at the most vulnerable industries like retail, transport, and hospitality. And the percentage of jobs in those industries, or in these countries actually, that where the jobs cannot be done from home, which again, in the case of a lockdown, creates very high levels of vulnerability to situations like this. Okay. And again, all these businesses now have to make some kind of forecast of how to prepare for the future, what kind of future expects them, what they should anticipate. And the main insight from this is that it's so difficult to anticipate what is going to happen and when. The world very clearly was not expecting COVID-19, was not prepared for COVID-19. And after this situation, the world will not know precisely what to expect and what it will bring and when. So we have and these are just examples of, you know, how businesses are trying to adapt in completely unexpected ways. One of which is like luxury hotels pivoting to healthcare and providing healthcare during coronavirus, and how they have had to adapt very, very fast and radically in order to make this pivot and you know, be useful and relevant and survive the situations like this one. So let's look at what is most likely to change in the hospitality industry after COVID-19. One is the business models that hospitality businesses normally use. And the second thing that's changed radically is customer expectations of what constitutes a positive hospitality experience. Because of things like social distancing and health concerns and similar concerns that are just totally new, and they were not predicted or planned for or designed for. Our environments are not designed for the new concerns that have emerged because of COVID-19, and that has to change. So let's take a quick look at business models. So before COVID-19, the hospitality business did business like most other businesses, and it was, if it isn't broken, don't fix it, which means that they just continued doing business the way that they have always done business. But now there was no, let me put it this way, there was no motive to make radical changes to the way that they did things. And now the situation is that everything is broken and many businesses are broke now, and they have to find a way to recover. So one of my main points for today is that COVID-19 will force hospitality businesses to rethink their operating models and make changes they were unable to make before. And the main reason that they were not unable to make them before is that businesses that are people heavy, that have a great deal of interaction, people coming and going, and high levels of constant activity, find it difficult to make radical changes to their operating models or to any other thing without suffering costs, obviously. And therefore, there is a big motivation to make incremental changes or avoid making changes altogether because of the losses that they incur because of that. And therefore, the benefit from any change that is made has to be large enough, significant enough to suffer the effects of stopping everything to make that change. And now that is not true anymore because everything is already stopped. And therefore, this is an opportunity for hospitality businesses to reconsider how they're doing things and see what it is that they can change to improve their productivity, their profitability, and efficiency, especially now that everything has stopped and they can make those changes without suffering. I mean, they're already suffering, without suffering the impact of that change on their business. Okay, so my argument is that post-COVID-19 hospitality businesses will pursue greater resilience. My argument today is that while technology was designed to create to improve the performance of a business before, now the position of technology within the framework of growth and profit and advancement in every respect is greater resilience. This is what companies will look for in what technology can give them as of today, because the impact has been so large that what these businesses will care about is how they're going to survive the next one and how to prepare and to be resilient, to be flexible and agile and adapt quickly without losing so much because of a lockdown or an outbreak or some other kind of crisis. And I will also argue that they will do this through restructuring, decentralization, lockdown readiness, and more reliance on technology. So technology and emerging technologies particularly are going to become increasingly important in giving these companies the resilience that they want. So the other aspect of how hotels will have to adapt to new realities is guest expectations. Now, guest expectations have changed from the hospitality experience, have changed towards managing health and safety concerns, as in giving guests the experience of a safe environment, health-wise, security-wise, and in many other respects. And this will have an impact on absolutely, I mean, everything, including the customer experience, designing the customer experience, processing processing check-ins and check-outs, to the interaction between staff and customers. And I mean, how can you manage customer interaction in a situation where social distancing is recommended, and how people are going to want to avoid heavily populated areas? They're not going to want to be too close to too many people from different countries, from different from different places, as is usually the case in nearly all hotels. They're going to want greater peace of mind, to know that the environment that they are going to is a protected and healthy environment. There are no threats to their health from these environments, that they will not have to interact in heavily, intense, people-heavy environments, and that if they do not have to interact with people, they will not have to. So this is a very big change, I think, for guests, and for hotels to be able to adapt to these changing concerns. It's difficult to predict how much this desire for social distancing, etc., are going to affect travelers when the travel industry and hospitality industry recover, but they are definitely going to be there. And for businesses to compete and to be successful, they are going to have to look for ways to address these new concerns. So I am proposing today that emerging technologies have the power to offer solutions to both these challenges. They can offer hotels a long-term sustainable recovery and meet new guest requirements. But which of these new technologies are the most relevant in this context? Because you have a whole bunch of new technologies that are going through different levels of adoption in different industries. One example is, for example, augmented reality. And augmented reality in factories for training and information sharing, etc., is a growing sector. But now, after COVID-19, we might have a different situation where priorities have changed and intentions have changed, and therefore technology is going to be repositioned. It's the same technologies, they're more or less the same, but they're going to be repositioned in the context of how much resilience they can give companies. So before COVID-19, the most popular technologies and the most talked about emerging technologies were augmented and virtual reality for marketing and sales. For example, from the hospitality industry, I mean, allowing people to experience a room in VR before you visit the hotel, for example, is one technology that companies were experimenting with. Augmented and virtual reality for education and training is a growing industry. And again, for guest communication and entertainment, it was also, I mean, that is a little bit, that has been slow in being adopted, but it's very much there. To provide AR for information for guests in the room, and VR for entertainment and other purposes for the guest experience. And of course, you have machine learning and AI that is growing quite fast for better forecasting, for example, pricing forecasting, and guest behavior forecasting and things like that, that all affect the design of the guest experience and the financial forecasting of all companies. IoT, again, sensing and automation, devices that are intelligent and responsive in hotel rooms, for example. Again, IoT for personalization. If you visit let's say your hotel room, and the devices there can recognize you and carry your settings and preferences, etc., with them. Blockchain, again, that's more of a back-end thing for secure transactions. And robotics for customer service, and biometrics, again, for identity verification. Now, not all of these technologies were successfully adopted. There are some very highly amusing examples of experiments. These three articles are from a hotel in Japan that attempted to bring in robot staff, but the experiment failed terribly because guests were complaining that these robots could not perform simple tasks. And actually they were misunderstanding guest behavior. There was one case where a guest who was snoring was woken up by a robot because the robot understood his snoring as a command of some sort. So not all of it has been successful, not all of it works yet. But these were experiments that were done before COVID-19. Now, after COVID-19, the purpose of technology and why it's being introduced is being realigned. People are looking at these technologies in a new light. And for that is, the main priority here is, how can we use technologies to survive the next global threat? That is what the biggest question that hotels will be asking. And what guests will care about with regards to these technologies is, how can we avoid potential health and safety threats, and how if we do not want to interact with a lot of people and we want to maintain social distancing, can these technologies provide that experience? Does a hotel provide that experience if I want it? Okay, so let's look at it in a broader perspective. Before COVID-19, the use of these technologies was more offensive in the marketing sense, where you would use these technologies for data gathering, learning everything that you can about your guest, entertaining your guest, retaining your guest after they stay with you, identity verification, etc., and automating different processes for greater efficiency and more revenues and profits and better branding. So all of these were designed to lead to an incremental advantage, as in how can we improve revenues by 10%? How can we reduce costs by 5%? And these kinds of concerns. After COVID-19, the purpose of these technologies is in the defensive sense. Again, companies will be doing more or less the same thing and gathering data about their guests and entertaining them and retaining them. But they will also be seeking other goals, which is more digital transformation, preparing for lockdowns. How ready is a company for lockdowns? If I have to send 60% of my staff home, can I effectively enable them to continue working from home? Is that possible for me? This is a very big question that is going to become increasingly relevant. And it's not just about doing, group calls and things like that. Companies will be seeking to empower their employees to be able to use the company's entire system from remote locations, including home or wherever they may be. Again, remote capability and operation. So, so we're not just talking about Zoom and having group calls and coffee. We're talking about being able to run an entire system from a location other than the office. So companies will be looking to invest in such software and such systems in order to be able to manage lockdowns. And again, companies will also be looking for deeper process and data integration, leading to financial resilience and risk abatement. So being able to reduce the risk of financial collapse in cases of situations like COVID-19. So new resilient hotel will rely on automation, remote capability, be ready for repurposing, again, for like hotels that are now doing, providing medical care, and investing in digital transformation, creating, adjusting their systems for on-off lockdowns, being able to switch off and on as fast as possible and recover as fast as possible, and create flexibility in staff-guest interaction depending on guest requirements. So in this context, I want very much to mention Ginosi's Hospitality Intelligence Platform, because as it happens, this system, the system that we've built for the past 10 years, is designed from the ground up for remote operation capability, for full data and process integration, and flexible staff and guest interaction, meaning that a hotel can create the team that it needs depending on whatever situation that it's facing at any moment. It can move staff to home and they're already empowered with the existing system to operate hotels remotely. And we've been doing this around the world for more than a decade already. So, and this system, Ginosi's system, includes integrated technology of every relevant kind, include from CCTV and RFID Wi-Fi access to interactive kiosks, which take care of, which automate check-in and check-out in more than 12 languages. Our booking engine, hospitality intelligence platform that combines every hospitality operation from revenue management to task management, to review management, guest review management. I will look quickly through all of these shortly. Custom apps, smart thermostats in the room that predict and adjust to guest requirements, and smart locks. So we're not just talking about digitization, we are also talking about the integration of all hospitality operations into one system that can be completely remotely managed. So we're looking at remote operation, the core of this system, process integration for every conceivable aspect of a hospitality business, from guest experience management to revenues to financial management, analytics, and operations. Self-hosting. We have some hotels, depending on the hotel owner's requirements. We have some hotels that have receptions. We have some hotels that have already fully created a self-hosting environment whereby guests can come in and check in and check out without, waiting in queues at the reception, and where we have people on location, but they are much more free to manage the operations of the hotel without having to, let's say, wait at the reception or do constant, repeated tasks that do not require human involvement should the guest not require it. And again, we have flexible and better managed teams because of all this integrated software that knows where everybody is and what they're doing at any point and can adapt to any situation and any staff requirements. If it's about lockdown, everybody has to go home, that's one thing, and maintain a minimal team on location. Or if there is no interaction issue and you can maintain the team that you want, you can also do that. And ubiquitous digitization. We have digitized nearly every aspect of hotel operation that can be digitized, from door locks to check-in and check-out to Wi-Fi, security, etc. So all of these technologies together fall under the banner of what we call a safe state technology, which combines all of these virtual services, team flexibility, and automation into one system that, because of these lockdowns and COVID-19, has become very, very relevant. So in short, Ginosi, and why I'm happy to be Ginosi's marketing manager at the moment, is that Ginosi can empower a new kind of hotel in the post-COVID-19 era to meet the needs of a new kind of guest. And that's basically it from me today. I would like to share the fact that because of an amount of interest in our technologies, we are considering better ways to deliver our system to hotels that require it, that are interested in how these technologies can help them become more resilient. And one of the possibilities is to create a course in resilient hotel management through Ginosi, about which we will be talking soon in the coming period. So anybody who's interested in these kinds of technologies and is interested in learning more, please follow me on LinkedIn, and please feel free to contact us through the contact information below, and we'll be happy to talk about it with you. All right, and I think that's it for me today. Thank you very much, Teresa. I hope it was interesting for you and everybody else.
It was. I'm sure it was. To tell the truth, everything is combined in Ginosi management platform. We in hospitality are used that there are some integrations, different companies. We integrate with PMS, channel manager is another company, review management is another company. So in short, Ginosi offers the full package of the facilities, we can say. And we have already a question from Asha Kazarian. Thank you for the nice presentation. What I would like to know your opinion about how IT will change the hotel's infrastructure. It will become less contact and more distance keeping. More robots will be used to provide hosting services. Thank you.
Okay. Well, the answer to that is that although it's difficult to predict exactly how much, to what degree all this will become important, it will become important. And that's precisely why hotels will want to be flexible. Flexibility is the key to resilience here. As in, we are probably going to see lockdowns and no lockdown, lockdown, switching from these situations, you know, in the coming years, depending on different things that they happen. Sometimes maybe you will get another COVID-19 outbreak, or you will get a COVID-20 outbreak. Nobody can foresee this anymore. But these threats are so big now that they can stop everything, which means that you have to be flexible. It doesn't mean that you have to keep your staff at home all the time. No, hotels are not the kinds of companies that keep staff home all the time. They need staff to be on site, interacting with people, helping people. So it's a people-heavy environment, especially if you have, let's say, food and beverage and other services. But the idea is that they have to be flexible because guests are also going to have different concerns. Some guests will not care so much about social distancing. They love the hotel environment. They like to be taken care of by people, and they probably continue to want to be taken care of by people. Other people are very concerned about health concerns, and they will want to maintain this social distancing, and they will want to make sure that the room is clean and taken care of before they arrive. So you will have a larger variety of people's concerns. And for that, a hotel has to be resilient and flexible enough to take care of that. If you get a government order to go home, then the business should not fall apart. This is the main concern. Businesses should not fall apart because of, you know, you have to wear masks and you have to stay home and you can't go out. So each of these big, you know, companies of different sizes will adapt to their customer requirements. I'm sure that boutique hotels will have different requirements than perhaps big brands, yeah? So the key is flexibility, and Ginosi in particular creates precisely that kind of flexibility, whereby hotels can adjust. They can have the team they need, they can have the guest experience they want, they can have a reception, they can have a completely self-hosting hotel if that's what their guests want. So the key is flexibility here. It's very difficult for me or anybody else to predict what's going to happen after this. So being prepared for it is the key.
Great. We have another, not question, but opinion from Nubar Tataryan. Hello, Hagop. Thank you for the presentation. Personally, I am not convinced that there will be a dramatic change in hotel operations and guest expectations after the COVID-19. Branded hotels already have crisis management plan. Yes, some points will be amended in the crisis plan and hygiene SOPs, but things will be run as usual. Guests will have some expectations. This is just a theory.
Well, yes, it is a theory. I mean, there is no market information right now, and there can't be market information right now because, you know, guest movement has dropped to, I don't know, near to zero. So there is no information to suggest, to prove beyond a doubt that guest expectations have changed. And I cannot cite sources about that. But what I'm saying is that what I can say with certainty is that hotels will be dealing with much greater uncertainty as of tomorrow. And therefore, hotels and all businesses, transport, retail, you name it, they will want to look for ways to minimize that uncertainty. And now it depends on what each hotel will do is difficult, again, to predict. And it all depends on what kind of systems these hotels rely on and how much flexibility their existing systems can give them. If a hotel has enough investment in the right kind of software to create that flexibility, then they're well prepared. And they will not make too many changes because they're already there, they're already ready. Hotels that we operate will, in that sense, they will be ready once guest movement returns and people start traveling again. Some other hotels will not. They will observe through experience, and it's not market data. It's more like the internal experience of a hotel whether the systems that it has are sufficient to give it that level of resilience. Personally, I doubt that hotels have planned for resilience because COVID-19 proved beyond a doubt that they hadn't. And therefore, priorities will change. What each brand or what each company will do to create that resilience is difficult to predict. And I think that will become much clearer after the lockdowns are over and people start traveling again. And if people are leaving a brand because it's not giving them what they want anymore, and that will show very clearly, I mean, the market will see that very clearly, and which hotels are adapting sufficiently to these new threats will show very clearly, and the market will show that. It's not for me to say what they will do. We're definitely prepared.
Thank you. So we have again another message, not the question. Thank you from Anna Boyajan. She wrote, thank you for a useful presentation. While our participants are typing questions or thinking about it, I have questions concerning remote management. You mentioned during your speech that with the help of the Ginosi management system, you can manage hotels remotely. But one question concerning the confidentiality. Why I'm asking? Because I know hotels, lots of hotels in Yerevan, that even do not allow their employees, sales managers, can be reservation managers or other positions, to have access or to have the PMS on their notebooks and to have access this from home. How this part, maybe I didn't catch the whole idea, how this part is fixed in the Ginosi management system, how it is done, and how the hotel that was not used to give access to employee out of hotel will give this to the employee.
We already have that. We already have, I mean, we have full access control, as in which employees in which department of the company have access to which aspects of a hotel's operation. So the whole thing relies on a certain level of partnership between the hotels, and we do provide them with the confidentiality that they require. If some hotels prefer to keep all their information completely to themselves and internally, and not even sharing it with their own employees, it's their privilege to do so. But we do have hotels for which we share all information, but not throughout the company. Not everybody in the company can access a hotel's financial performance data, etc. Only those people who are involved in the financial management of that hotel have access to that data. So we have full access control, and in some countries this is a big deal. I mean, if you're using any kind of public software that you can buy or you can subscribe to, that software company has access to all your data. If you're using, on location only, if you're just buying the software and deploying it within your environment, then maybe, yes, you do have full privacy. But if you're buying any kind of software, then that company, perhaps they're not going into your hotel's detailed performance data, but they're definitely gathering data about you. So, in some cases, this privacy is an illusion. In some cases, it isn't. But in our case, yes, we do build a partnership with the companies that we work with. And I think the main reason that this question arises is because we're in, another location. And this is not really about location. If you're subscribing to software and and that software is in the cloud, then you can control who accesses that software within your company, but you are also sharing your data with that company. So again,
you know what, Hagop, what was the point? Like, hotels even do not, there are hotels that even do not allow employees to have access out of hotel. I mean, when they are working, when they
yes, I understand.
urgently, in weekend. They do not allow because of some kind of confidentiality issues. For me, not clear, but anyway, how these kind of thinking should be overcome when you offer them how they are protected, or how, because maybe their concern is that employee will have access to the data that is out of hotel and they cannot control that. As I understand, it is controlled like in PMS and logs, and there is nothing.
I understand. Well, these situations are easily manageable through access control. I mean, we're talking about two things. One is we're talking about employees being able to access only the information that is relevant to their work. Yes, that is one aspect, the depth of access. Now that is easily controllable through access control. I mean, we do that in this company. We have, we can set, we apply many of the technologies that we use to our own building. I mean, who can access which room, who needs permission to access which kind of information, which document can be shared, cannot be shared, which documents can be edited or not edited, yes. The other aspect is location. So the employee who has access to certain information while they're at the office should not be able to access that information when they're outside the office or the hotel. I mean, what I mean is the hotel. And that is also easily controllable through access control. I mean, you can set times at which an employee is able to access information, let's say within working hours, yeah? If they're outside of working hours, then it's easily, it's easily programmable for an employee not to be able to access that information outside the office. If you want them to, they can. But if you don't want them to, again, they have no access. Again, I mean, all of this is so recorded and measured and manageable that these issues very rarely arise. Almost never, they never arise. Unauthorized access does not exist. If you do not want people to access something that they don't have authority for, then they just don't. And if they do, then you log their access. Whatever it is that they have been doing. If they've accessed a file, when they did that, which file they accessed. So these things are very easily manageable. I mean, technology. One of the first things that technology does is precisely this: it manages control and access, and logs all behavior within the system.
Thank you. There is also one opinion. Not mentioned with, the name is not mentioned. So the hostels have to have the ability to work when even issues like we have now happen, and then everything is fixed, come back to the regular state. So I think I did that. It is again.
Yes, that's precisely, yes, precisely. Hotels should not think about whether they're going to survive or not. Should not have to think about this. They should think about managing everything efficiently and easily until the crisis is over, and when the crisis is over, returning to business as usual.
Great.
Definitely.
Another question from my side. How you will rate, or what is your personal opinion, regardless of the company you work for, the situation of the technologies and their usage in the hospitality industry of Armenia? How familiar are our colleagues, and like the percentage of which they use? Because what I have noticed, and from my personal experience and from others as well, for example, the PMS we use maybe 60 to 70% of the functions that PMS offers. Sometimes it is because of the lack of trainings or something else, but it is not 100% or near 90%. And what's your personal opinion, and how this transformation that is already going on outside of Armenia and in Europe and America, how fast and how will be affected Armenia and our industry?
Okay. It's rather difficult to predict. I think we're all going to have, we're going to see a few surprises after the COVID-19 is over. But specifically with respect to Armenia, it's more or less the same as it is in any other country. The speed of adoption of technologies is mostly related to competition. How much a company is investing in a certain technology, let's say augmented reality, how mature the technology is, how easy it is to adopt, how cheap it is to operate, and most importantly, how much value are you giving the customer, and how much revenue potential are you adding to your company with this technology? So it's basically a question of cost effectiveness. And in countries that are much more competitive, let's take, I don't know, Spain as an example, or Italy, or these heavily tourism heavy countries, the competition is so fierce and the volumes are so large that any kind of incremental change, the slightest change, creates huge differences in efficiency. You can use technologies to either cut your costs operating costs, or to create a new kind of guest experience. I mean, you can have you know, robot hotels and whatever, and all these things. Some of it is just pure branding. I mean, if you're entering the industry and you want to differentiate yourself and say, you know, there is something special about us, we're you know, a special kind of hotel, then you know, some companies will use these technologies to create that kind of difference and say, you know, we're different. Other companies will care about how these technologies can create an efficiency advantage. Excuse me. And so hotels will have different priorities and different purposes for which they're using. I do not expect that these emerging technologies will see a boom in adoption in Armenia. I don't really expect that, simply because the competition is not, you know, the fierce competition is not there. Perhaps it's saturated, yes. But it all depends on how fast these technologies also mature, like, you know, AR, VR. Yes, is Armenia any different than any other countries in adopting AR, VR? Probably not. And if it's cheap, and especially in the case of AR, VR, if it's cheap to produce the content, subscribing to an AR, you know, AR, VR service is probably not that expensive, and it's not going to be that expensive in the coming years. Yes, maybe the hardware is expensive, but again, costs will go down. As soon as they go down, the more they go down, the more these companies will try to see if how they can use them. But also in the case of AR, VR, you have the cost of content production. So, you know, are you going to spend money on recording every room in your hotel in AR, in VR, so that your guests can see the hotel in VR from wherever they're coming from? So again, all of these, the speed of adoption is a question of cost effectiveness and how much value you're creating for your company by making this investment. So it's a financial calculation, and for each hotel it's going to be different. If there's a wave of adoption, a lot of hotels will be forced to adopt these technologies in order to compete, to remain competitive, and not to fall behind. But again, there is a point for each business at which the cost of using this technology is worth it in terms of the value it creates, and the more efficiency and better experience, and they can market that better, and, you know, get more guests, or reprice their, you know, their product, they reprice their rooms for a better customer experience. And each company will do that differently. It's difficult for me to forecast. And I think Armenia is more or less the same as any other country, except, you know, like the scale. Yeah, the scale is probably smaller than, you know, than these big countries, where investments are considered much more seriously because the numbers are so much bigger. But again, it's going to be the same as any other place.
As for me, I think it will start from the guest expectations. When the guest will expect something like this and will ask for it, that is the first option. And whenever one of the chains will implement something new, it is like will be like domino. It will pass one to one and another, because it like to be in competition. These 2 points.
That's what I mentioned. That to remain competitive is the goal here. And again, it is a financial calculation based on how much it's worth it. If you know, if 90% of hotels in Armenia have introduced VR and you are not introducing VR, you've got an issue probably, because customers are going there. Yeah. So that is how the decision will be made.
We have also another point of view. I think that several procedures will need to be changed, like deep cleaning procedures and proofs to the guest. Check-in and check-out procedures can be done automatically, but as for people working at the hotels, will not be replaced with the robots. As for me, hospitality industry will lose its business, as it is connected not with the hotel to open by technologies. The borders are closed, so people are not able to travel. Like the main concern of many colleagues,
these are the main
robots.
I don't think
I think that they will be replaced.
I don't think robotics is a huge threat to hotels, to employees' jobs at this moment. Personally, that's a personal opinion. Basically, because the more there is an irony to this whole situation, which is that The more technology is deployed in different environments, not just hotels and other deployments, the more human interaction becomes very valuable. Let's say, let me give you an example. If you have a factory that is producing a certain product, producing 10,000 of them a day, now a handmade version of that product is very valuable. People are willing to pay huge amounts of money for handmade versions of industrial products. So again, this also applies to human interaction. People are going to value human interaction in a very specific way. Once there are certain tasks, yes. It's again, I can also give you the example of the ATM machine. When the ATM machine first came out, everybody was like, oh my God, you know, like banks are not going to have employees anymore. And of course, that's not true. It's just that when a certain basic task becomes automated, the employee becomes open to retraining for other tasks, for higher level tasks. That is what usually happens. People do not just, you know, do not just get fired and go home. They are retrained because they already have a lot of knowledge and they already have a lot of experience. And especially hotel employees who are used to interacting with people, and emotive people who are able to communicate and connect to people and express themselves and help understand what people want in a much deeper way than technology can, are going to become much, much more valuable for any industry, including and especially the hospitality industry, because hospitality is all about connecting to people and understanding what they want and being able to give them precisely what they want, even if they're not able to communicate that in an effective way. So I do not think that robots will easily replace hotel employees. It's not going to happen. I do suspect that because of this realignment towards technology, hotel jobs, I suspect that they may, you know, there are going to be hotel jobs that are lost, but that doesn't mean that people will get fired and go home. What it means is that their training will be very valuable for higher level tasks. So, and with retraining, with a realignment of skills, these people are going to be very valuable in the coming economy. That's my personal opinion. Jobs will be lost, but people will not.
Exactly.
They will do new things. That's all.
We can even take example of channel managers. Before channel managers, we should have one person who should manage all the rate in the different channels. It can be OTAS, direct channels. After channel manager implementation, we have just a software that control everything. But it doesn't mean that that person was fired or something else. He can be person who control everything. He can be person who control the strategy, and why not? He can be a trained person for revenue management.
Correct. So people are open to retraining for deeper thinking, strategizing. It's just that machines can do simple tasks. They can replace parts of the whole operations process. And that should be done, and it's inevitable. It's going to happen, but there's nothing new about that. Machines have been replacing things forever. So the threat is not in the machine. The threat is in not reskilling. This is the threat to someone's career and to someone's job. Not learning. If you're not learning and learning new skills and adapting your skills to a new future, this is the threat that you're creating. It's very easy for people to reskill and to look for higher level jobs in any industry. And today's technology, it makes that easier. I mean, how easy it is these days to learn new skills. It's very easy and very cheap. You don't pay $50,000 to go to MIT. You pay, $50, and you get the skills and the knowledge that you need. And it's respected as knowledge. I mean, the more and more credibility, there's more and more credibility in these, micro programs and micro degrees and all these things, because they give you precisely the skill, the narrow skill set that you need to perform a task much deeper and much better than before. Especially in retraining for AI, for example. Retraining for AI for any employee is a very easy way for you to reposition yourself in an industry and become highly valuable for that industry. That's just a very, in 1 week you can become, you can double, triple your value in that industry just by taking a simple course and learning these new skills. These are new machines, there are new ways of thinking. Machine learning and AI are creating new kinds of potential. And all this potential is open to people. It's open to people. It's closed for people who are not retraining, who are just trying to keep things exactly as they are. And that's the big threat. And looking at the experience of Japan, I think it's going to be a while before robots are able to distinguish, snoring from whatever commands. Okay.
Exactly. We have another message from Tatevik Matsakian. Thank you for the time shared. This was interesting to follow your ideas. Sharing most of what has been taught, I do think that looking forward and putting the first root of an innovative approach in our country will bring the trend to Armenia. This is just being sure that not only the demand brings the proposal, but the vice versa too. The effectively implemented digital innovative solutions will definitely give a new value to a place. Tatevik Matsakian, thank you very much for the point. This is concerning like whenever the guest will ask, we will need to implement. And the vice versa, that it should also be implemented in order to change like the rating. Good point.
Yes.
We hope that
businesses are much more customer oriented these days. They are much more capable of listening to the customer, understanding how their needs are changing, because it's such a fast changing world, and customer requirements are changing so fast, and they are going to change after COVID-19. Exactly how they're going to change and how much is difficult to predict. But the market guests will tell you, with their wallet. So, how much they're willing to spend, and if they're willing to spend on your business, will decide what you need to do to keep that business operational. So we cannot predict internally what's going to happen. It's the guest that's going to tell us.
Exactly. And the point that not only demand brings the proposal, but also vice versa, as Tatevik mentioned, agree, because whoever will be the first, we can say like this,
yes.
It can be in Yerevan or in Armenia, whoever will be the first, he would take like the great part
yes,
of
that also happens. That is also true.
For sure,
yes, if some companies invest more than they could if they waited. Yeah, if they waited, let's say 1 or 2 more years to invest in a certain technology, they don't wait. They spend, they make that expense. They accept the cost so that they can be the market leader and use that technology to grab market share. Yes, that's also done. That is also a strategy. That also depends on how much you're willing to spend and how much you have to spend. So if you have a lot of cash, yes, you can play games like that. You can do that. You can use strategies like that to grab market share and say we were the first, or we have the best, etc.
Exactly. Thank you, Hagop. For the moment, we do not have new questions, or we have, sorry. We have questions or opinion. Thank you. Thanks, Hagop. I like the overall subject, and especially about the reskilling ourselves.
Yes, that is very true. You will find that from experience that reskilling creates huge potential. Nobody needs to worry about their job.
And it is a really good time for trainings and for professional development.
Absolutely.
Because everything is very
exploding.
free.
If you look at the number of people who are registering for online courses, and learning new languages and new skills, it's exploding because people have so much time. And these are things that people always want to do, but they do not have the time. I mean, we are all very busy people, and going home late at night. I mean, if you have free time you want to spend with your family, now we are spending a lot of time with our families, which is a great thing, and also having a lot of opportunity to learn. And yes, it's happening, and it's a very smart thing to do.
Yes, and a lot of companies, I mean, I have seen that a lot of companies and training centers, they like moved very fastly to online. They were very flexible for the situation and offered online solutions of their trainings, like didn't postpone anything, just offer the replacement with the online.
That's a smart thing to do.
Maybe there are people that are still not fine with this online solution. They want to wait to the face-to-face interaction like in the real life. But this really gives us a lot of privilege to arrange it from different sides of the earth and why not the time you want at the place where it is place independent, cost effective. And
some companies have hiring issues because they cannot hire fast enough. Amazon has a hiring need. They are hiring 100,000 people because of the fact that a lot of people are now ordering things online and not going out to buy them. And there is a huge spike in online ordering. So they have a requirement for 100,000 people. So the whole market landscape is changing in different ways. But again, anybody who is able to reskill easily, quickly, and it's very much possible, they don't have an issue of thinking about their future. That is a very easily solvable problem.
Exactly. For the moment, Hagop, we do not have any question or any point. Thank you very much. It was really interesting.
Yes, thank you very much as well for organizing.
I cannot tell from the side of the attendees, but I guess it is like this. But for me as well, because like in the last months, I am concentrated on these topics and very interested, and it was really interesting to know also Ginosi management system, like how many functions and how many softwares it offers in one package. Hope that we will have this growth and this transformation, and any employee or no one from the staff will lose something. Like they will. This is not only just the way that it will be transformed. This is like notice that you should start from now to adapt the future that it will come. Not to lose your principles or something else, but to see where you will be in the future and to adapt to the future that is coming. We cannot stop it, but we can manage it for ourselves. We can see our place there.
This is the kind of situation that is a crisis, but it's also a tremendous opportunity. And it's very desirable for people to think about it like this. It's a colossal opportunity for people. And the freedom that people have now, and what is important about now is that people have the time to do it. What was the problem before was time, because everybody is so busy and kind of, you know, within their daily routine, that it was so difficult to create the time for it. So what is magical about these days is that the time is available. And if the time is available, then the rest is easily taken care of. I mean, I think that people today have the freedom to determine how they want their future to be, and the availability of knowledge and accessibility, even, you know, financially, cost-wise, it's so easily accessible to retrain, learn something new so fast. There's so many apps, websites, and things that can help you define how you want their future to be. And it's not a dark future at all. I think it's very bright. It's just that you have to be able to adapt. The businesses and people, you have to be able to adapt quickly to an environment that is changing faster and faster every day. And it's unpredictable. I cannot say, nobody can say once COVID-19 is over, you know, in 2020 or 2021, what is going to happen, what kind of crisis, what are we going to have? But as long as we are proactive and take charge of our future and define our future and shape it as we will, nobody has a problem.
Thank you very much for
yes, it was great for me.
Great experience for me. It is like I name it as a gift because it is from your side without any interest, and we like want to motivate and want to push our industry and our colleagues to for professional development and to be part of all of this. And if you want something to eat or something to tell our audience.
I know it's a difficult situation for a lot of people, and it's this level of uncertainty can create a lot of concern. I mean, you know, everybody has, you know, families to keep, mortgages to pay. So, and right now there is very little about things that you can do. I mean, if your hotel is not operational because guests are not simply showing up, what can you do? You can't. You have to wait until, you know, this thing is over and you return to business. But in the meantime, you can make, just like a business can become resilient and able to withstand the crisis, on the individual level, you can also take a lot of action right now in precisely this situation to become more resilient and create a future that is open. You don't say, no, I will only do this or only do that. What you should say is that I know enough to be able to switch location or industry, or not switch if I don't want to. Just give yourself that kind of flexibility, and it's very easily done.
Mm-hmm.
Just a few steps, and you will be much more comfortable about your future.
Exactly. Thank you very much, and thank you for our attendees for participating. So
I would like to invite anybody who is interested in Ginosi and our systems in the hospitality industry. Please feel free to connect with me. I can be easily found on LinkedIn, or contact Ginosi directly and through our emails and our website. We'll be happy to show you more about what our system can do. And also, we are also, as I mentioned before, we are also considering different ways of reaching out and communicating the value that we can provide in different ways. And when we do, please, anybody who is interested, follow our social media pages, or sign up with us, or contact me in some way that I can make sure that whatever that we are creating for our customers and anyone who's interested can reach you as well. All right, we're findable, we're easily findable, all of us, myself and Ginosi, on social media. You can easily find us and follow us.
We will put also contacts in the recording. As we mentioned, we will have also the recorded version of the webinar in our YouTube channel. Today it will be already available. So there the contacts and all the information you have shared also will be available. So thank you very much. Thank you, Hagop. Thank you, dear participants. Wish you a good Sunday evening, and of course a nice week ahead. So thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.